Well, hello and welcome all. Thank you for joining us today on this late April Wednesday. We are with you today to present our final Power Hour of the year. The entire series has been a joy to present to everyone, and we do have all of the Power Hours available for people to view the recordings on our YouTube channel. We'll be showing that link for that in a little bit. So today's Power Hour is showcasing your students' talents and aspirations. Feel free to grab the QR code that's there if you want to have your own copy of the slide deck, or you can follow along as we present. And also make sure that you check the chat, especially to sign in for sketches and information. So Joan is putting that there, and we are recording today's Power Hour. So welcome. Give everyone just a little bit of a second to just make sure you're comfy in your chair, sitting how you need to be sitting, ready to hear what we hope is some great information, some good resources for you all, things that you can actually take with you and apply in your settings. So happy again, once again, to collaborate and join with my colleague, Joan Hawkshorst, another Career Connect career development consultant. And our role here in Career Connect is to identify and build systems that align and support all of the career development efforts underway across our unit. And one way we do this is through these Power Hours, a professional development learning opportunity to learn about some key pieces of information. And this year we've been wrapping the Power Hours around the Michigan Career Development Model. So we have some objectives, of course, that we're going to be covering today. Each relates in some way to the Michigan Career Development Model, talent portfolio specifically, and its learning targets. And we hope to show you a wide variety of ways in which students can showcase their talents and aspirations, because we understand that students often have different priorities and preferences in how they present themselves and express themselves. And we understand that certain post-secondary options expect certain types of presentations. And so a portfolio is one way that students can certainly show who they are, what they are, what they've been doing, and how they've grown as an individual. And as we've done throughout this year specifically, and with our Power Hour series, is wrapping it around, again, the Michigan Career Development Model and its targets. So we'll start taking a look at this stair-step graphic representation of the model and its learning targets. And today's focus, as mentioned, is around talent portfolios, which you can see on the target here in the framework. It begins at the high school and continues into the students' post-secondary pursuits. You can also kind of see on the framework here which ones of those learning targets are legislated and which ones are encouraged. And so the portfolio is legislated there at the high school level and encouraged to continue at the post-secondary. So you can click on the graphic or grab the QR code to get your own version of the stair steps. Now, for what the Michigan Career Development Model says in terms of its description and definition of a talent portfolio, is that the talent portfolio is a collection of artifacts that allows a student to show what they know and shall include a record of the student's experiences, proficiencies, certifications, digital badges, and accomplishments that demonstrate talents or marketable skills. So Michigan legislation allows districts to make local decisions about implementation, but requires that talent portfolios be initiated in that 7th grade year and updated annually. And we've got some more detail about that because the EDP, the Educational Development Plan, that's also legislated, and the talent portfolio kind of go hand in hand. And so we just want to make sure that we lifted up what the definition is of the portfolio from the model. So again, from that description, that definition, just previous on the previous slide, let's kind of look specifically at the learning target, which says we're gathering and recording information in a student's talent portfolio to showcase that student's proficiencies, again, their experiences, things that can demonstrate their marketable skills to a prospective employer or admissions committee. And that last piece is kind of an added piece from the definition that I just read in the previous slide to this more description or in the actual learning target, is that we're doing this, or we're helping students to put together this talent portfolio so that they can have documentation and then be able to demonstrate those marketable skills to, again, those prospective employers or admissions committees, because we know that the portfolio can be used in a variety of different ways. And that's something that we want to talk with our learners about as well. So within the Michigan Career Development Guide book, the talent portfolio is listed in the guidelines there, again, at the high school level. And it's a time where students in that high school timeframe, they should already be updating different self-assessments, starting to refine those decisions for high school, post-high school, next steps. And then during this time frame as well, students may become more focused on a career pathway. They might start diving deeper into researching labor market demands and post-high school training and education options. This also includes, certifications that they might have earned and experiences and accomplishments that they've had, things that they can start to build out their portfolio. So their portfolio may not have existed prior to those high school years, but as they're moving through those high school years, looking towards post-high school next steps, this is where some of those things start to form and the documentation starts to build towards putting together that portfolio. So then in this screenshot of the guidelines, you'll see there's sample strategies that are listed and related activity examples. And then there's some suggested metrics, some different ways to measure how well we're doing in terms of having students go through these different experiences. So for example, the capture evidence piece, how many times does it occur where there's an event or an experience that's completed and oops, someone forgot to take a photo of that, or there wasn't documentation? So one of the ways to make sure that we're helping our learners capture evidence is to be sure that there's someone that's designated as that photographer, so that they are there before, after, during the event to capture those photo opportunities and help the student show that evidence of being a part of whatever that experience might be. So then implementing an intentional plan for students so that they can cultivate a very rich and talent portfolio is another way we're helping our students. So what does that mean? Like, how are we helping be sure that we're helping them to cultivate that rich portfolio? What if we very intentionally say, hey, Fridays is a time we're always going to make sure we take time in our classrooms for students to record and document their experience, perhaps in Zello, because we know that all of our students here in the Kalamazoo County have a Zello account and can do some documentation in Zello around some of their experiences so they can help build their portfolio. So if we've been doing our job with students all along their K-12 trajectory, then they will have collected experiences and various self-awarenesses that can be showcased as they begin their post-high school pursuits. So we just want to make sure that we have that intentionality of helping our learners and reminding our learners and encouraging them to continue to collect those artifacts so they can put those together in a portfolio.
Thanks, Liz. So now that we've reviewed a little bit of the Michigan Career Development Model and the framework for why we're having this conversation today, I'm going to take a few minutes now to start us down the path of examining a wide variety of different ways that a learner's talents and aspirations can be showcased for various different purposes. But we'll start, of course, with the platform that is available to every high school student in Kalamazoo-Riza, and that would be Zello. And as you probably know, Zello offers students a talent portfolio framework that's integrated with the rest of their profile. And so, as Liz just mentioned, if learners have been using Zello as intended over the course of their K-12 schooling, they'll already have this treasure trove of information ready to build a personalized and professional portfolio. So, as outlined in the Michigan Career Development Model, students are introduced to the purpose of a talent portfolio actually starting in 7th grade. And as you probably know, because you've been paying attention as we've been doing this all year, Zello has this About Me section that really serves as the foundation of a talent portfolio later in a student's evolution. So this About Me section is available to students beginning in 6th grade. It serves as the foundation of the student's talent portfolio by helping them capture self-knowledge, experiences, and achievements. By completing the components and assessments on the About Me page, students can easily begin building their talent portfolio. And there's 3 steps to that, right? So first, they're going to work on fulfilling the requirements of the Michigan Career Development Model talent portfolio by completing their About Me profile in Zello. They're going to do the assessments. They're going to learn about themselves, the personality styles, their skills lab assessments, so they know more about their own skills and what they'd like to develop. That's what you see on the left side of this screen. They also will hopefully complete that experiences and credentials piece of their About Me page. They're going to complete the skills that self-rating skills that they have. They're going to complete some interests that they have, and even the places section in Zello. And finally, as we'll see in the next few slides, students can then kind of curate their talent portfolio using the Zello portfolio function to collect and present information and artifacts that they've gathered, and to actually create a piece that can demonstrate their talents and their marketable skills. So let's take a look at that. This screenshot is actually from a recorded Zello webinar that I would highly recommend to anybody who wants to start learning about how portfolios are integrated into Zello. The webinar is called Zello Portfolios Creating Top Applicants, and you can find that in the Zello support section. And this screenshot shows the ways that Zello imagines students using the portfolio tool. So students can use Zello portfolios to create and share fully customizable displays of their work, whether it's their own work or things that they have collected. As you can see here, students might use the portfolio tool to showcase their work-based learning, their career research, their project in a specific academic area, or their broad set of skills and experiences. And once they've created their portfolio, they can share it as documentation of work for a job, for a college scholarship, or for a digital submission requirement for certain exams they might be taking. They can also use it for an assigned project in a class, for a talent showcase, and much more, as we'll see. Before they begin to create their own first portfolio in Zello, if they're looking for inspiration, students can dig in by checking out all of these different sample portfolios. They can click on See Sample Portfolios, and they'll see all of these different categories and specific portfolios that have been pre-created by Zello to help inspire them and help them see the range of ways that they can use this tool. On that page with the sample portfolios, they can also watch a really quick video and click into, like I said, any of these samples here. So they might decide to use their portfolio for a school project, for a college application, for a work experience, to display their creative work, and the more ways that you can see here. As educators start to consider how they might want to foster the use of Zello portfolios with their learners, this is another really helpful site. You can click on it by clicking on the graphic or the link here. It actually gives you the opportunity to look at some sample portfolios without having to go into Zello. So this is sort of a backup way to see examples of how a student might use Zello for a scholarship application, for example, or to showcase their work experience, or as a portfolio where they're collecting examples of their musical performances or their photography. So again, just wanted to throw this in as another way that educators can access some examples as they start to think about how to do this with their learners. So how do students get started on their first Zello portfolio? They can get to that portfolio section actually from every single tab at the top of their home Zello page. So what we're showing here is the home page, where you can see that left arrow pointing to the portfolio section. And then the Explore tab also has a way to reach the portfolios section, as does About Me and the Goals and Plans section. So pretty much anywhere they are, they can get to that portfolio page. And when they start to build it, these are some screenshots of what a student actually sees when they start to build that first portfolio. So they create a section. The first section that they'll create is this title and description section, which if you are, for example, making a portfolio that showcases the photography that you've done in a photography class, it might be called My Digital Photography, and that description might be evidence of photography skills. And then they can add as many sections as they want. They can give each section a title. And as you can see there, they can choose different types of media to add to their portfolio in each section. It can be external media, like videos or web pages, or even other Zello work that they've completed, as you can see here. For the external media, students can upload files of up to 1 gigabyte, and they have a total of 200 gigabytes of storage. The types of media materials they add to a portfolio will change depending on why they're creating it. I see Denise's question about the portfolios. And I'm going to say, did you try clicking on the slide deck? Because that's a way to get there directly too. And I'll double check that address for you when we get to the end of today's presentation. Thanks for that question. So just wanted to point out a little bit about the sharing of a finished portfolio with others. So once a student has titled and added sections and added all of the media and elements that they want to include in a particular portfolio, they can toggle that switch that you see here in order to share a link to their portfolio. They can share it with their educators, with their family members, with college admissions officers, with employers, and more. They're also able to turn that switch back off at any point. And then anyone that they've shared their portfolio with will no longer be able to view it. I should note that the sharing portfolio feature is actually enabled by an educator for students. So before a student will see this share portfolio option, it needs to be enabled by educators. The idea being that we want to give some control to the educators to make sure students are creating and disseminating portfolios that we can all feel good about. And so the educator does keep control over when to make this share portfolio button available. And if you need more information on that, you can definitely check out the Zello support site. I wanted to just point out three things that Zello recommends that we remember about portfolios. Number one is that students can really showcase can showcase their work and demonstrate what they've learned in a wide variety of different ways using this portfolio piece of the platform. Educators can track portfolios and see if course requirements, graduation requirements are being met. So portfolios are part of the report section in Zello. And as you can see here, if you've assigned a portfolio as part of a class or to a whole student group, you can tell what percentages and then click in and see who has and hasn't completed that assignment. And then that the portfolio feature really does support a wide variety of different kinds of self-presentations. So portfolios in general are really trying to present a holistic view of a student's growth. So hopefully somewhere embedded in this portfolio that they're creating is some self-reflection, maybe in some opportunity to showcase growth that has happened as a student has progressed through their learning. So I mentioned just a minute ago the Zello support site, and I wanted to give you just a quick look at what you would see if you went to get some help from Zello. Great resources that can support you as you work with your learners to create Zello portfolios. This support page you can see down at the bottom. There are a number of shareable resources. You can get to this page by clicking on the graphic in the slide. And also wanted to point out that in addition to the resources that were visible on the previous slide, there are also supplemental resources that you can dig in and access, so that there are PDFs that you can hand to students to help them with a lesson plan. There are learning modules. There are all kinds of ways to take this very rich option and make sure that students have what they need to appreciate and dive into how they might use it.
Right, thank you, Joan. That was a nice overview of the Zello portfolio feature and the different pieces that are embedded there, as well as that help site. When you're on that help site, sometimes it is easier just to type in what you're looking for in the search bar. But thank you, Joan, for some of those direct links to that section on the support site. What I wanted to kind of add in here in regards to portfolios is, how do we get students thinking about a portfolio and what might go into that? And so the graphic here on the left is a LinkedIn article about creating vision boards for your career goals. And then you'll see some graphics on the next few slides of some different vision boards that students have put together with that career focus. So having students create a visual representation of their career goals and dreams is a way we can help them envision their future self. So, vision boards, it's cutouts of words and pictures, and it oftentimes helps spark language for students to use when describing who they are and who they want to become. So they really can be used as a precursor activity to creating a portfolio. Vision boards, they're not new to classroom activities, but creating a career-focused vision board might be. So imagine during or after a unit in math around forecasting, how might a student create a vision board forecasting their future? So what might their salary be? What is their lifestyle like? And how might these things intertwine in a potential career field? So they're using the content or the learning, the skill of forecasting, but they're adding that career focus piece to it and doing some of that manipulative work of actually gluing it down onto a vision board. So when we think of those vision boards, we might need to do some planning ahead of time because we know that most of the time it comes from cutouts of words and pictures from magazines. So making sure that we have that stack ready for students to utilize. So to begin a career focused vision board, there's some steps I want to share with you. And students really should start with, thinking about or having, they might have already done some exploring, or maybe they need to do some more exploring. And then certainly reflecting on those explorations and the awarenesses that have come from those different experiences and what might a potential career area be. And then collecting those words and images and quotes, maybe even some logos, perhaps, that are aligned to that career area and what's inspirational for them and what might be motivating for them. There might also be some short or long-term goals, maybe a timeline, and we want to make sure that students are keeping it personalized. So I want to actually, along with the vision board piece, toss in this chart that's inside the Michigan Career Development Model. It provides a sample list of types of career pathways within a career cluster. And then I added on the left-hand side the actual icons for the career zones. So we can see how the zones line up with clusters, line up with career pathways as depicted in the model. And so as students might reflect on their career exploration experiences and interests, an idea of a pathway might emerge. So they might key in on one of these more specific pathways, especially at that high school level where they are becoming a little bit more focused on what some of their next steps might be. So a student may even, if you supply copies of this particular page in the Michigan Career Development Model, students might actually cut out that line of the different pathways, or maybe even all the way across in terms of the clusters and the pathways, and glue that on their board. So just know that the Michigan Career Development Model also has different graphics, different pieces of information that a student might be able to utilize on their career-focused vision board. So a lot of times getting started can really be the hardest part. And with most things digital, like I said earlier, it's really good to start early and ask around for some old magazines that students are able to cut up. And there's a lot too that students can download from clip art sites, Pinterest sites, Google Images, all those different things to really, collect the different art, different pieces that might reflect them on their vision board. So encouraging students to take time to reflect on their assessments and their different explorations and experiences. And the fact that the interests that they might have learned about themselves or have recorded perhaps on their Zello site is really just one of the factors to consider for their career-focused vision board. And we know that research shows individual personality traits often can be matched to work environments and natural talents that are associated with those personality traits. So those things might give the students some insight for, kind of wondering what their next steps are going to be, and kind of, like I said earlier, kind of solidifying that or getting a little bit more real with that. So, and we know too that there's natural talents that go along with some of our personality traits, but then there's also the learned skills, the learned abilities that are a lot of times mastered through coursework or skill development workshops. A lot of our team sports and our school organizations, of course, help students develop some of those learned skills. For example, a swimmer who maybe received a lifeguard certification, like what opportunities might this open up for their future selves? What are those things they can reflect on, then collect about? and build into their vision board. Even work values. What is it that they value? What is it they think they might value in the workplace? So as mentioned before, students have had lots of instruction typically throughout their schooling around SMART goals. And so perhaps they want to have a goal on their vision board. Could be a short-term goal, could be a long-term goal, or it might just be simple sayings like make a plan or stick to it. Um, Perhaps get to work on it. Those things that the student visually is reminding the student, you know, to work towards something. So, what are some of those words that might stick out for a student to be able to put on their vision board? And also a timeline. Like for some, having that timeline, again, that visual piece of information to help them not only complete the goal or the task ahead of them, but also to reduce their stress and anxiety. Because as we know, time just flies by. And so for some students, having an actual timeline on their vision board might be helpful. So no matter what, we want to make sure too that for vision boards, like again, that precursor to the talent portfolio, that no matter what, students know to personalize it. So what are those things that really will jump out on the board that is the student? So what are those things that are their true inspiration, their true motivations, their pursuits and their passions? So we want to make sure that we are encouraging students to keep those things in mind.
Great. Well, I love that we've just taken a few minutes to sort of play with the idea of how a student represents their own talents and their own aspirations and goals, right? So we went from the Zello portfolio, which is a pretty structured way for students to capture their future thinking. And then we looked at career vision boards, which is a much less structured and much more sort of playful and open-ended way for students to think about showcasing their talents and skills. Now we're going to look again at another possibility for students who are trying to figure out how best to showcase themselves for their future pursuits. So once learners have the experience of building that Zello portfolio and maybe even creating that career-focused vision board, they might start wondering about how they'll connect these reflections on their talents and aspirations with the larger professional world outside of their school. And this may be the time for high school students ages 16 and older for LinkedIn. 16 is the minimum age that one needs to be in order to create a LinkedIn profile. This might be the time for them to start thinking about that. So we're going to spend a few minutes with LinkedIn. You may be wondering why, and the why is really because over 1 billion people use LinkedIn around the world. And that popularity is why it's used so widely by recruiters and HR departments, as well as by professionals across a wide range of industries. So it becomes that really important sort of common denominator that can allow our learners to connect with professionals across the town, across the country, across the world. There's several reasons to start using LinkedIn as a high school student. Let's take a quick look at those. First, it's creating that professional online identity. We know that our learners are online a lot. We know that they've got lots of different platforms and accounts and profiles and ways of presenting themselves. But if they do this LinkedIn profile well, it's possible that when a college admissions officer or a potential employer Google them, this link to their professional self-representation will be the first thing that they see online. So that professional online identity becomes increasingly important as the student starts to head out of school into the world after high school. The second reason is to start building a network in a learner's chosen field. A billion people most likely includes a network of folks who are doing the same kind of thing that a young person might want to do someday. And by setting a LinkedIn profile up early, they have the opportunity to start building the connections that will create that network for them as they get older. And then the third one is to just learn more about jobs of interest and internship opportunities in their field. So clicking through other people's LinkedIn profiles or seeing what the job board is showing, or starting to get a clearer sense of the educational pathway that others have followed to get to a job that's my dream job, I can do that really easily on LinkedIn. So if you are an educator who is considering encouraging your older high school students, again, age 16 and older, to start using LinkedIn, we wanted to share a couple of resources that have some great suggestions and starting points for them. This is an article from an organization called Standout Connect that connects high school students with internships. You can click on this slide and get to the link to the whole article, which walks students through things like the importance of using a professional profile picture as opposed to the photos that they may use in their other social media presences. How to craft a really attention-getting headline, which we'll see in a minute, is the piece right under the profile and the banner on the LinkedIn. It really, this article in particular walks students through how to fill in if they think they don't have enough experiences, how to think creatively about volunteer opportunities or ways that they've gotten skills that they might use to sort of bolster a seemingly sparse experience section. This is another article, again, from LinkedIn Pulse that gives some great tips for high school students who are just getting started with their LinkedIn profile. Again, you can get to it by clicking on the slide in the deck. We'll make sure that people get a copy of the deck if you haven't been able to access it after today's presentation. So LinkedIn used to offer this profile checklist that was specifically geared towards students, and I couldn't find it anymore on the LinkedIn support site, but you can find it if you just Google LinkedIn profile checklist for students, because a number of folks, universities in particular, have downloaded it. So I wanted to put it here on the slide. We did put a copy in our Google Drive that has the slide deck for today. So you can also get to it. There's a link. Again, when you click on this, you'll go to our copy of this. But this has been super helpful in work that I've done with students on LinkedIn for years, just in terms of, again, walking them through what makes LinkedIn particularly useful as an emerging professional. And what are the things that I want to do when I'm just setting up LinkedIn for my professional pursuits. There's a good question in the chat right now about whether there are issues with minors being on LinkedIn. And again, LinkedIn has set the limit of age 16 as the earliest that they want to see people starting profiles. LinkedIn is by and large, a very respected and respectable place. The etiquette of LinkedIn really is that you connect with people that you really have met or had a conversation with or had an email exchange with. It is, in my experience, a much more sort of trustworthy place because people are putting their professional reputations on the line with everything they do on the platform. So in my experience, it really is a place where students who are emerging professionals can feel safe and confident about exploring and learning. Obviously, the same kinds of qualifications go with that go with anything that you do online, right? You got to trust your sources and you got to vet the information that you're getting. But again, this is just another really useful handout to share with students if you are thinking about getting them to consider LinkedIn profiles. There are other checklists out there. Again, it's just different ways to sort of get that same information to students that they really do want to have a high quality profile. They want to have a headline that captures their professional essence. They're going to write a summary. This is a good example here. Anna is a graduating high school senior. She says what her goals are. She shows some experiences she's had. So just helping. I know that K-12 education is not one of the fields that has a really high rate of LinkedIn adoption. So wanted to make sure that we gave lots of resources to folks who might be diving into this for the first time. Um, so if you don't yet, as an educator, have a LinkedIn profile yourself, this is the place where I'm going to encourage you to set one up. Um, and to do that before you start encouraging your students to create LinkedIn profiles. And there's several reasons to do that. One is you can show them your profile. You can show them a well done educator profile, and that will give them a sense of how to do it. But also, you can use it as a way for your students to get their first connection, right? What you might do is work with them on developing their LinkedIn profiles and offer to be a connection to connect with them, at which point they'll be able to see your connections, but not until they have polished their profile and made sure that their picture was professional and that they had a good experience section and that they're clear about their goals. And once they do that, the reward to them is that they can connect to you and start to build their network. So that's just a thought as you consider this. So LinkedIn is really widely used in business. There's very high adoption in IT, in marketing, finance, healthcare, consulting. It's especially going to be useful for students who see themselves going into recruiting or software development, sales, management. All of those fields really do rely heavily on LinkedIn as a professional networking tool. But your other students, maybe the ones who are looking at a creative arts direction or social services, might find it helpful to create their own professional portfolio using a different platform than LinkedIn, or maybe something in addition to what they put on LinkedIn. And so this slide is just showing some of the other opportunities for students to create that first professional profile. The one in the top right corner is actually built on Wix, a pretty basic website platform. People are also creating professional profiles using Canva, which I know students are super fluent in these days. And you can make a professional profile using Google Sites too. So each of those logos links to a page where that platform walks students through how to develop a professional portfolio using their platform. And I'm just putting this out there because there are lots of opportunities for students who have a set of experiences to showcase, or they might be really artistic, or they might have volumes of poetry that they want to share. And the built platforms like LinkedIn might not be or Zello portfolio might not give them the flexibility that they need to adequately show what they're trying to show about themselves. And again, the whole idea behind this is to give us a sense that every one of our students is going to need to have a way to show the world who they are, what they're good at, where they want to go in their lives. And you, as their mentor, counselor, educator, can be someone who can sort of help guide them about. In your instance, this is a good way to go, or here's an example of a profile on Google Sites that might do what you need to do as someone who's hoping to be a, I don't know, equestrian or race car driver or whatever it is. I'm guessing you can find a platform out there somewhere that's going to have an example of a professional portfolio for any industry that students are interested in.
So we wanted to and continue to talk about some different platforms that students can use. It's available to them to showcase their work. Another one for students, particularly student athletes with the aspiration to play on to the next level, is the honest game. And I'll be honest, in talking about the honest game, I am just starting to become familiar with the components of the honest game and what it does. But I can also speak from experience as a parent of three children who did play on to the next level with their sport. There's lots of different pieces of information that you need to keep track of to make sure that your student or that particular that student, that learner, has is eligible, has completed all the different eligibility requirements. And so what we're learning about the honest game is it does help high school student athletes navigate some of the NCAA and the NAIA eligibility requirements, and provides college athletic reports on eligibility, which is also known as CARE. It's trademarked CARE in terms of all those different pieces. Like I said earlier, there's lots of different eligibility requirements, and for a student to be considered to be on athletic team at the next level, they have to meet these different requirements. In those D1 and D2 areas, the D3 area is a little bit looser, I guess would be the best word, in terms of not quite as many particular eligibility pieces, but it might still be something that a student would be tracking and keeping track of. So CARE provides the student and their family with a way to build their academic portfolio, helping track that academic progress needed, that ensures the student is meeting the core course requirements to be eligible. And there's ways to make sure that those pieces are there, and an easy way to keep track of them that works with those different organizations at the next level. And so what we've learned is that for schools that are already using the honest game, Zello has a free integration for that. So there's no add-on fee for the school. But if a school is already using the honest game, so if you already know some of your coaches are working with it with students, or your athletic department is already working with it with your students, then we can help you get in touch with Zello for that integration if you're interested in it. So we just wanted to bring this up during our power hour today with portfolios, because this is, again, another way of showcasing the student being able to showcase themselves, what some of their aspirations are. And we do know, especially from Zello numbers, there are students that do want to take their sport to the next level. So I'm seeing, Denise, your question. It jumped off. Are you seeing that, Joan? Denise's question.
I think it's not a question. She's actually showing an example of a portfolio using Canva that she created.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah,
You're
Canva is
welcome.
another great site. So sorry about that. Also, within the honest game, we actually reached out to Zello and just said, we're just starting to learn about this. So do you happen to have some sample portfolio examples of how Zello and integration is, how that might work? And so here we have some samples from Zello and the honest game, and what those portfolios might look like. And so those are some examples that you can go through at your leisure in regards to these two components, especially if your school is already using the honest game. So it is a separate company, that company does charge the subscription fee. So like I said, if your school is using the honest game, then you've already probably been charged that subscription fee. But then Zello doesn't charge anything. They will just do that integration for you. So then schools can utilize both with the students. There's that integration piece so that there's information that the students are building within those platforms.
Great. So here's a totally different way that students might organize their thinking about how to tell their story by using this 4-quadrant future me Venn diagram that our team has created. So this asks students to share their reflections on 4 core questions. What do I love? What am I good at? What can I get paid to do? And what does my community need? And then consider what opportunities might lie at the intersection where the star is of their answers. So, this 4-question framework has been used to showcase student thoughts about what they love and are good at the elementary, middle, and high school level. And we even asked our guest speakers to use it to frame their career stories at the recent Careers in a Changing Climate Career Champion event, which you can see here. So, just another way to invite students to consider how they present themselves. Um, and if this is something that you are interested in getting resources for, check in with your career development consultant because there's a whole suite of resources that can support this framework at all different levels. So, we've talked a lot about how learners can showcase their own talents and aspirations, whether it's through Zello Portfolio, through LinkedIn, through vision boards, through the Venn diagram, or through their own creatively designed sites, like the one that Denise showed us on Canva. And we want to wrap up with a question that we hope you'll consider even after today's Power Hour. How can institutions showcase student aspirations and talents for all of their students, especially in ways that value and include all of the different post-secondary pathways that are being considered by your students? So we wanted to offer just a few examples. High schools can showcase postgraduate pursuits by creating visual displays like decision walls with college banners or career signing boards, by hosting career college signing days, and by using social media spotlight features. Schools can also use senior parades through elementary schools. They can showcase projects in local media, and they can feature alumni successes across lots of different pathways to highlight those diverse paths, which might include college, trades, military, gap year, et cetera, et cetera. So here's an example of an inclusive Kalamazoo Promise signing day poster, where you can see that students are encouraged to wear their college or their military, their trade, their career gear, and show the city what's next for you. So we just wanted to sort of point out that while most of this Power Hour is about students and their individual showcasing of themselves and their future aspirations, how do we as educators and institutions also remember the variety of ways that we can support our students in showcasing those? Denise is having another cool idea. Admin building showing artwork from different schools. Wouldn't it be cool if we had a month to feature student portfolios or vision boards? Great idea also. So again, we just wanted to sort of get the wheels turning to make sure that we were encouraging educators to think both about individual ways that students can represent themselves and also ways that we can help represent all of the variety of postgraduate pursuits of our students. Before we leave this slide, I wanted to share just a couple of other things that I gleaned from preparing for today. One piece of advice that seemed really smart to me was to make sure that your learners save everything they create. And that some things that they hang on to, that they save in a digital or in a 3D, in a shoebox, whatever it may be, some of those things they're going to want later on, and they're going to want to include them in some of the ways they represent themselves and maybe not others. So some things that they save might be more relevant to one pathway than another, but it will help them if they have a variety of examples of their work. So that might be papers that they've written. It might be a resume that they've created. It might be projects that they're proud of from a science class or a health class. It might be certificates of achievement that they have received along the way. It might be descriptions of the plans that they are making. It might be references, individuals who can vouch for their talents and skills. So, whether students save those in their Zello timeline of experiences or whether they save them in a shoebox under their bed, just helping all along the way, even when our learners are young, to remember to hang on to things that can be artifacts that will contribute to a portfolio in the future. Just wanted to make sure that I passed along that piece of advice that's pretty easy to then pass on to your learners.
And it is a good piece of advice because when we ask students to start creating these things, sometimes their first thought is, "Oh my gosh, I don't have anything." But if we've encouraged them to save things, then they know where to go to get those. Again, whether it's right to their Zello timeline or if it's to that shoebox, they have it. Another point I wanted to mention in terms of the district sharing, which I think is a great idea. And I know that there are districts that do that in terms of hanging up artwork or, my gosh, having a talent portfolio display day. What a great idea. That also bolsters the family engagement because a lot of times when those displays are happening, then the public is welcome to come in and see those things. And the public, a lot of times, is promotions out to the families to come and wander through and see those. So it helps bolster that family engagement. So I want to thank everyone, whether this is your first Power Hour or whether you've been with us all along. We have really enjoyed providing these this year and hope that they have been impactful for you in some way. Whenever you've been able to participate. And again, if not, there's always the Power Hours on YouTube. On our YouTube channel that you can go back through and read or share with others as well to learn some different pieces of information. And before we end today, we have a couple of little promotions. We want to make sure that everyone knows that we have open applications right now for the next year's cohort of career champions. Whether you have already been a career champion or are new to the Career Champions Fellowship, we want to encourage everyone to apply to this wonderful opportunity of network of people who have that passion to serve in their districts as a career champion with a project that is supported by monies from KRESA as well as a cross-district career champion. So there's two different options this year, and there's an application link here on this slide for you to follow. Also want to make sure that everybody saves this date. So we've set up August 18th. It's a Tuesday for the Zello Summit. We are very excited with some of the speakers that we have coming for it and some of the breakout sessions that we will be providing. We know it's before school starts, but it'll be a morning well worth your time. So we really hope that you will consider bringing yourself and a team of people to the Zello Summit for this next year, this August 18th. And with that, again, a big thank you. And be sure to check the chat so that you can sign out for your sketches. And we will be following up with an email that has all the information that we sent today, as well as links to that Google Drive where the resources are held. So thank you. It's been a journey. It's been a wonderful journey.